Boys, we are back at Wailing Caverns. It's phase 2, we're level 40. The run's a lot easier now, but it actually has changed a little bit since level 25. I'll give you some keynotes real quick. If you ran it at level 25, you're not using Living Flame throughout the run to heal yourself. You would actually end up killing mobs or making them low health so they got too far away from you and de-aggroed. You're also using Blink a lot more, because in phase 1 we had Boom, which gave us 20% move speed, and we're only getting 8% move speed from the Minor Boot enchant. So it's a little bit different, but overall the route is still the same, and the kill phase is still fairly close to the same. And if you haven't run it in phase 1, don't worry, we're going to cover everything you need to know in this video. So let's go ahead and get on into here. One thing you're going to want to make sure is you always have both of your mana gems, both your rank 1 and your rank 2 mana gems. I recommend you use your rank 1 mana gem throughout the pool. If there's ever a time you feel like you're low mana, you're just uncomfortably low mana, that's a time to pop your low gem. And you always want to save your rank 2 gem for your kill phase. You're going to use Arcane Power and Arcane Explosion everything down, so it's going to use a lot of mana, and you want to be able to cleanly close that out. So we'll kind of display that throughout this run. I think I end up using both gems. Other than that, there's no consumables required. We'll go over some of the recommended consumables for maybe some of the newer runners. We'll go over some things that can help you out a lot. But you can run this as is. The only base requirement for this run is that your boots have move speed on them. You do need the 8%. You can't do it without it. So the start of this pool, still the same as it was in phase 1. We're just using Ice Lance instead of Living Bomb. If you use Living Bomb, once again, things would get too low health or possibly just kind of die throughout, stagger the kill. It would be bad. One thing you will note, differences from P1 to P2, and something to know as a new runner, you want to keep your mana barrier up here a lot more. You can get your mana back pretty easily, and every time your health gets low, you're going to use regeneration to get it back up. So there's really no difference between using your mana barrier to keep your health high or using regen once you take some damage. So I prefer to just keep my health high and pop mana barrier regularly. But you're going to have to do a mix of the two no matter what. It's not like you can do one or the other. You just need to kind of mix in your mana barriers and your regens how you feel comfortable. So here I used 1 mana barrier up top, maybe 2, and I'm going to use 1 regen down here. You don't have to worry too much about your mana. A lot of this run is MP5, just, you know, not using any spells, just running. So we're waiting until we see that, the big pack. If there's just 1 druid or 1 raptor coming at you, you can just stay there and wait. You're waiting for the big clump of mobs to come around the corner. We're gonna go long line here, super long line. It might feel uncomfortable, just run it, trust me. You'll see that's gonna be your first clumping phase, and that's gonna help a lot, especially with these raptors. If they get too far away from you when you do the de-aggro at Cobran, they'll just evade back to spawn, so. Not sure I would recommend an Arcane Explosion there like I did. Probably stick with a Nova. Stick with the Nova if you need to AoE pull mobs that aren't body pulling, if it seems like they aren't body pulling. Arcane Explosion will cost you a lot of mana. But still very similar to the P1 run. The only other major difference I'd say is you want to run tight lines. P1 we ran wide lines because 20% move speed allowed us to do that. P2, everything is a tight line. You're going to run the inside line on everything you do. You see, we're just going to continue on down to Cobran. You're going to take some damage here, and that's fine, because we're going to regen after this, and there's a huge MP5 phase. I think we get about a minute to ourselves after this. Alright, there we go. Nova and Blink on down. You don't have to Nova there. I would have taken more damage, though, and I was kind of low health. Also keep in mind, as you can see, I do have greater healing potions, and I would recommend, especially as a new runner, bring some healing potions. They're super cheap and they'll save your runs. I think we're gonna regen twice here. Yep. Your mana doesn't really matter. You're gonna MP5 super hard here. It's a good sign to see Cobran. And once you see them coming on the right side like we do here, we're gonna go ahead and head on down to the fold. It technically, I mean, this isn't an infinite fold because it gets kind of hairy after a couple pulls of it, but you can do this fold 3 or 4 times pretty comfortably. And the idea here is that you're going up to the top part of that, I guess triangle is however you look at it, and then going back down to the bottom part so that they aggro you down to the ramp. It's a pretty easy fold. If you fuck it up and take some damage, once again, you could just, you know, healing potion that. And as you see, we haven't used any mana for the past minute or so. Since we healed with regen, did the fold, we're running. The first time we're going to use any mana here is blink. So there's a lot of MP5ing throughout this run. And I would recommend while you're in these phases, like right now, where I don't need to blink, don't need to do anything, just let your MP5 run. Maybe occasionally hit a Nova like that, but for the most part, if you're using mana as well, like that, I used a Nova and I used Blink back to back. That way, I can just let the MP5 start stacking up again. But ultimately, going into the second side, the second wing, around 50% mana is going to be fine. 50% mana, and you definitely want a decent amount of health. I would say over 50% if you are new to the run. I've done this with as little as around 30% because you can mana barrier and blink a lot of this damage coming up. But going into this, not a bad idea to pop a health potion here if you're not over 50% health, I'd say. And that blink right there is actually pretty important. So I blink into this because you don't want to be ice lancing and then have to blink out of 100 mobs hitting you, right? So give yourself the breathing room to ice lance throughout this hallway. Just blink right as you come in to the second wing. That blink alone will save you a lot of headaches. As you can see, we're hovering around 30 to 50% mana. This is going to be completely fine. We did use our small mana gem as well. So you can use, like I said earlier, you can use your small mana gem anytime you want, anytime you're feeling it throughout the pool. If there's ever a time you're just like, I don't like that, mana's too low, I'm not gonna have enough for a blink and a mana barrier or something, go ahead and pop it. But you're saving the big gem for your kill phase. Don't worry too much about your health or your mana. You can heal up. You get a huge healing phase after this, and you get a lot of time to MP5. Heal and MP5. You can get multiple bandages and about 2 minutes worth of MP5ing here in the near future. So this is a slight deviation from a lot of the phase 1 routes. I've just been testing it out and I actually like it. I think it adds a small amount to your kill count. And a lot of these are elites, even though there are a couple of those little peddlers, but there's a lot of elites here, and it also makes pulling this room a lot easier. What a lot of people were doing is they were coming from the other side, walking into this room and then blinking out. I just prefer this. One thing to note, right up on that lip, when you're going up for that jump down, there might be mobs coming at you from your backside as well. You might need to Nova there. But Nova or not, you'll be fine either way. Big heal here. We want to be full mana. We're going to MP5. We're going to use our wand to pull. We're wanding everything here. That Thresher is going to pull Pythos for us. Or that Shambler. We're looking okay. We're going to use a bandage here, and I would recommend, I'm only using, I think, a heavy silk here. I would recommend getting your first aid up. Get your first aid up to 225. It'll make these runs drastically easier than what I had to go through here. Because my bandage, I don't even think brings me back to full health. It's a regular silk bandage. But yeah, bring better bandages than I did. Even still, that's plenty enough. 80% health here is good enough. Now, I mess up something here, and it's kind of funny. What you want to do is make sure that every Deviant Dreadfang goes into your Nova. And as you see, one of them does not. So, not the end of the world if one Deviant Dreadfang's on you. Once again, this is another health potion potential situation. If your health gets a little too low, if you're a little uncomfortable here, go ahead and pop a health potion. They're pretty cheap. I think they're like 10 silver. So I go ahead and I tank the damage and I pop another bandage when I get down below. So once again, another situation. If I had better bandages too, it would have been a big difference. All right, get down here, bandage ourselves on up. You don't need a lot of health going into kill phase. Living Flame will bring you back up. And if you're super, super, super low, you can always pop an Arcane Explosion early. Arcane Explosion on even like 10 or 15 mobs will top you off, so. All right, we got them all in the Nova that time. That's what you would like to do up the first time. Makes your life a lot easier. And we are looking for a Shambler. We're looking for our Shambler for our kill phase. What a big mossy boy, there we go. You can either set up a macro or tab target through. I generally don't have a problem finding one, but either or to you. We're gonna set them up here. I do one Arcane Explosion with Art Arcane Power just to kind of soften them. Then I pop Arcane Power, and as you can see, I actually kind of step into my Living Flame, or where my Living Flame was before it died. So that some of those druids who were running died Arcane Explosions. They're not line of sight of me. So we're just gonna Arcane Explosion down. We Nova there for Evo, but I forget I didn't get Anaconda in the Nova. So kind of unfortunate, but not the end of the world. Everything here should die quite nicely, and similar to the P1 runs, if you don't have a perfect kill phase, you're going to have a couple of druids running around, but you should have less druids than you did in P1, and it shouldn't affect your kill count as much as it did in P1. Even with these couple stragglers, you should be well over 170. This should have been around 180 to 190 mobs this run, because this is a pretty clean run. I would say if you could get a little more spell power than I have, you could probably have a slightly cleaner kill phase. I'm using literally level 25 gear, other than like 2 greens that I bought some of Eagle at level 40. But this is like literally level 25 gear. But yeah, as you can see, since we didn't Living Flame throughout the run like we did before, you get all the snakes, all the peddlers, you get all of the like the gators, all the small non-elites, and I know they're not much experience, but there's something. And sometimes carries weren't getting those when you killed them far away. So that should be anywhere from 170 to 190-ish mobs. I've done this run a couple times, and the druids, obviously, sometimes they run and they glitch out, they're weird. So it can be anywhere from around 170, 190. Also, while you're learning the run, you might miss a couple packs. So, you know, it should be at least 170. And here on Living Flame, those runs go for 8 gold a run. Check with your local server, all right? Don't get outed by the boosting mafia on your local server. Your boosties are still standing right in the corner, straight in front of the entrance, as they did in phase 1. The run should take you anywhere from about 10 to 12 minutes to do. And we ran out of Wailing Caverns footage. Unlucky. We're going to go ahead and finish up here in Orc. I just wanted to cover 3 things really quick. Your gear, your consumables, and your talents. Gear, we already kind of loosely mentioned. Literally some BFD gear and some of Eagle 20 level 40 gear will do. I don't even know if you need the BFD gear. Probably do this with the of Eagle level 40 gear. Arcane Power really brings this home for us. So not the end of the world if your gear isn't great. The recommended consumables, there really are none if you have basic gear, but if you're a new runner and you want to be a little bit more secure, you can bring an Elixir of Defense, Strong Troll's Blood, and Mana Oil. This is just armor for kill phase. Strong Troll's Blood gives you a little bit of health back, and Mana Oil gives you MP5, because if you're not getting the most value out of your MP5 phases, you might be running a little low on mana throughout the run. So Mana Oil could help out with that a lot. It's also super cheap. It's like 5 silver per dose here on Living Flame at least. So those are the 3 consumables. And then as far as talents, let's go ahead and get those up. There we go. Pretty standard deep arcane build. The only difference from this and maybe what some other guides might put out for like a raid build is the improved arcane explosion, and you definitely want that for your kill phase. So make sure you have improved arcane explosion. The rest of this you're going to pick up just from a standard build. And I did raid Nomer with this, so this is at least arcane healing raid worthy. And then your runes, pretty important, pretty standard build here. Regeneration, Living Flame, Ice Lance, you're using that to heal and pull. But the big one there, Spell Power. You really need to go pick up that Spell Power rune. I actually did this run without it before, and your kill phase will just not be the same. So you have to go get the Spell Power rune. Other than that, that should be it for talents, gear, consumables, the run. If I missed anything, if you have any questions, leave it down in the comments below, or hit me up in game, or drop it in Discord, whatever it is. And yeah, hope this helped you boys out. Go get that gold.